Hey NCI community, I'm Sonia Alcazar-Collier, and I'm standing in front of Women of Color Wellness Center. March is Women's History Month, and each week we will be highlighting women who are making impact right here in the local community. Today, I have the pleasure to interview Tamika Lewis, therapist and founder of Women of Color Therapy. With Tamika Lewis. Thank you so much for having us today.
Thank you for being here. So exciting to see you all here in the actual house.
Right. This place is phenomenal. I mean, as soon as you walk in, I already feel like I want to lay on the couch and tell you everything.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the vibe we're going for, just to kind of, bring a warmth and just kind of a deeper connection to people in a homier space.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what we're going for.
Yay. Well, mission accomplished.
Thank you.
So Tamika, this is sort of a little bit surreal for me because as we're doing this Women's History Month highlight, I'm noticing that the people that we happen to line up for this month all have an actual brick and mortar, a space, which in our community is not common at all. So I want to talk a little bit about the process that got you here. But before we start there, tell us a little bit about your background with wellness, mental health. How did you get into that in that field?
Sure. Well, I think I've been a counselor since I was in high school. I was a peer counselor in everybody's business. And I just saw that it was a natural gift of mine. And I always knew that I was going to do something in the helping professional, just kind of connecting. Initially with teens. I started off working with teens as a school counselor, and then I ventured out into private practice therapy. Again, working with teens, but then eventually seeing a tremendous need, especially among women, working with women and women's issues. And I also felt even more deeply motivated after experiencing the loss of two of my roommates in college who were struggling with depression, and they both died by suicide. And so that was a really powerful and shocking experience for me. And I knew that I wanted to create a space for women to come as we are, kind of put down the facade of perfection, and really be able to just be real about some of the things that we're struggling with. And so that's when I shifted my practice to working with women, and then especially women of color, because here in the Valley, San Fernando Valley, I saw that there was just tremendous need. There weren't enough therapists of color. And so in 2019, we opened the doors of Women of Color Therapy, and we had offices in Sherman Oaks, and that's where we were for some time.
Now, did you go through formal training? Did you actually go to college to study and then go on and get your master's? What was that little trajectory for you?
I did. So I started off at Cal State Long Beach, getting a degree in school counseling, master's in school counseling.
Oh, wow.
And then I went on to UCLA to study social work. So I got my master's in social work, and then went on to work for DCFS in child welfare. That was really intense work. So I kind of transitioned out of that into working in schools as a school counselor, and then that's how I sort of carried on into the private practice realm.
I'm always interested in the different niches within the mental health, education and profession, because there's always like these little names that you hear. What is specific to school counseling? Is it does that imply that it is at a school, or is your background learning about the context of education and counseling? Like, what does school counseling mean?
Yeah, so typically school counselors are the ones that do kind of the academic programming and support with students, along with some personal social aspects. So we are the ones that they may come to if they're struggling with a breakup or just different things that are going on. But it's not as heavy in the clinical side is what I found. And my jam is really kind of being in the trenches with someone, really kind of helping them move through transitions in their life. And I noticed that that my students would just come in and want to just hang out with me.
Yeah.
And that's because they felt like they could trust me, that they felt comfortable opening up. And I knew that's kind of what I needed to go more towards. Right?
So building a business out of your profession requires a lot of components, I can imagine, a lot of capital, a lot of startup. Where did you get your start in being able to actually launch this as a profession? Did you study under someone? I know this trajectory sometimes is usually you're studying under someone while you're building those hours as a therapist, and then you eventually can decide you want to go in private practice. So what was sort of your route to ultimately getting to a place like this?
It kind of feels like it's all just been it's a blur. It's been a blur.
Especially when it happens fast.
Yeah, I think that what I always knew is I had to take action. I had to just keep moving, right? Yeah. So the beginning of the journey was renting one room in an office suite, and then that moved into actually a couple days out of a week, and then that moved to me renting a room entirely, right, for the month. And then that moved into me renting the whole entire suite.
Wow.
So in our last office in Sherman Oaks, we had 4 offices in our waiting room. And so each of those milestone moments was a very scary moment of me deciding to just bet on myself and trust that I knew that the need was there, and I knew that it was all going to work out because of our intention, which was really just to do amazing work in the community, and surely it's all worked out. So I definitely, I think mentorship by so many women in my life who have already taken those leaps and have shown that it's possible. Right. I have some amazing friends and mentors who were always there to kind of remind me, like, just keep going. Yeah. It's going to work. Just keep going. Yeah. So I think were you saving along the way, or did, someone just believe in you and say, hey, you know what, I see what you're doing. Here's a little seed money. Like, what was your eventual leap into saying, like, oh, I actually have something where I can build a business now? Yeah. Well, there was no real funding in the beginning. I mean, it was me sort of building the capital, that I needed to kind of keep going. Now, when it was time to make the transition out of the office here into this home, that's when I needed to reach out to different organizations. So that's when I discovered CDC, and I discovered New Community Investments, and it was a whole world opened up to me of all these programs that are available for small business owners, especially like women of color. They're funding. There's funding that's specifically earmarked just for us, and I had no idea about that. And so it actually made me think, like, all this time I probably this could have happened maybe even sooner. But that's kind of when I started to tap into other sources of funding to be able to scale and grow bigger. Right. So how does one still run a business with being able to also offer services at low to no cost? How do you make up that gap? Because ultimately you are a business, and you have to have revenue, right? You are for profit. So how are you able to meet your mission, but also keep the lights on in this beautiful place? Yeah, I think that's something that we are very intentional about having interns on our team, who I love having, usually second year MSW students. Okay. Number one, because we love to mentor and train and usher in kind of the new crop of healers, but also they're available to help us work with some of the lower income clients. Okay. So that's one way that we create access, and we also try to do community workshops and things at kind of a bigger scale, so that more people are able to access. But that's something that we're still exploring. That is a mission of ours, and it is a business. So we're still trying to kind of find that balance of how do we serve our main clientele, and then open up, our paths of services to a whole range of clients. Right. Can you talk a little bit about the funding program that you were a part of, Impresario? Yes. So I will never forget, I started trying to do crowdfunding on my own. I think I went onto GoFundMe or one of those platforms, and I started poking around, and I just thought, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming. And somehow I discovered New Community Investments and the Impresario program, which is set up to provide kind of, it walks through the whole process. Yeah. It's a platform where you can do build your crowdfunding campaign and then get support. So I got one-on-one coaching that Caitlin, who was amazing, who helped walk me through the whole process. So even just kind of hacks for how to have a successful campaign was really important to learn. How to get organized, how to stay the course when it can be discouraging, you know, to have realistic expectations around fundraising. So that was really helpful.
With crowdfunding, did you have to present a business plan? Did you have to show trajectory numbers and you know, what all you're going to do in the next 5 years? What was that process like?
No, I think for crowdfunding, you have to be clear about your mission, I think, and then you have to identify, you get to know your own internal network, right? So you start with your internal network, friends, family, and it's a very vulnerable thing, right? And to be someone who's not used to kind of asking, that I would say that was probably the most challenging part, is to just override that and trust that the mission is bigger than the fear. And then I had to just keep moving forward and know that what I was building is worth it. It's absolutely worth it for people to invest in. And I think many of the people saw already the path that I've been on, and they've already heard the vision, so they were already ready to kind of, you know, support. So yeah.
Did the majority of your funding come from people who knew your story, or were there some angel, you know, investors who like knew nothing about you, and what was that like?
Some of our donors were people that I didn't even know, you know, that just kind of discovered our campaign, and yeah, that was always really amazing to see that happen, for just to have that blind support. I would say most of our supporters are people who believe in mental health, especially in mental health for people of color, who have had their own battles with mental health. And so I really did want to find supporters who were aligned with our mission. Right. So that was really important. Even as I thought about going out in the community and talking to different businesses, I wanted to find businesses that actually cared about what we're doing. Yeah, that did make it a little more challenging, because it's not like you can just go ask anyone for money. I think everything that we do, the current that runs through this house, has to be aligned with our mission. Right. So it's got to be intentional. Yeah. So it was a little bit slower of a process, but it was important to stick with that.
Do you notice anything unique to people of color as it pertains to mental health? I mean, people of color experience death and trauma and, you know, all of these categories of grief in the same way that other counterparts do. But what are you finding is unique to people of color as it pertains to health and wellness and mental health?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think that we are accustomed to having to power through things in a way that is almost unfair. You know, the way that we are asked to show up and persevere, and to never have a place to just kind of relax our shoulders, right? And then to sit across from somebody who understands intimately what we're going through. I think that is really what is most powerful about this space, is as soon as someone walks in the door and they see their therapist, there's an immediate kind of disarming and trusting that you're going to be able to take care of me because you know. Yeah. Right. And so I think just the trust factor is often a barrier, you know, in looking at mental health in communities of color, and knowing that someone that they understand, and they're going to not judge you, and they're going to, you know, accept you. So that, I think, is the biggest thing, you know, that we provide.
You hit on something that really, really strikes something for me. Why is that? I'm half Mexican, half Black. And I completely get, and even when I look back at generations of women in my family, why do you think that we have had to have this? You've got to persevere, just get through it. Don't take time to grieve. Don't take time to take time. Like, why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, it was initially out of necessity, right? I mean, there was no opportunity to stop. It was often from a place of survival. When I think about the way my mother showed up, it was very much in an effort of just surviving and staying the course. And so that's what I watched growing up, and kind of that hustle and grind mentality. And just looking at kind of the racial structures of society that don't really look at us as humans. You know what I mean?
We're needing the same kind of care as other counterparts.
And we can still are to some degree not seen as human. We're more seen as commodity and more for the purpose of utility. And so we're just now coming into a place where I think we're feeling more of our humanity and our softness and our desires, right? Even to the idea of like desiring and feeling into our bodies is something that's kind of new. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's important about this space is beyond talk therapy, we invite women to come in and be able to do yoga and move their body, or to go outside and sink their feet into the grass, to do things that we usually don't have time to stop and do.
Yeah, right? Please tell us, how do you grow this business, and obviously expand? Yeah. How do you do that while maintaining your own mental health and your own balance?
Yeah. That's a loaded question. Well, I have a therapist, right?
Hey, come on.
Let's start with that. I have a therapist, so I have to be in the work. One of our mantras with our team is that we are in the background doing the work so that we can show up and actually like understand and be present, right? Yeah. So I think that's really key, is just intimately like being the one on the couch as well. So I know what that feels like, right? I am, one of my life kind of mantras is let nothing compromise your sanity or your sexy. And so I am.
Oh, and you're sexy. Okay.
Yeah, so I am, and what that means is just, that's your confidence. That's the thing that makes you feel vitality, and and so whether it's travel or something that I put on, or I always try to keep beauty and fun and play in my life, and I think that's really, I think people see that, right, and feel that, and so
it's walking it out, not just talking it out.
Yeah,
I love that.
people can tell too,
they can. They're like, oh, you haven't had a break, have you?
But my team will tell you, like, I definitely go hard too, so there's like the balance, but I think more than anything, I love what I do. So it's hard to distinguish at times between work and play. Sometimes it feels like it's play, and I just want to keep playing, but I actually should go to bed.
Right. I've noticed, just going back to talking about wellness and mental health as it pertains to our community, and these barriers and normalizing this, what are some challenges that you have faced in getting people who are underrepresented, people of color, to understand the importance of mental health and wellness?
Thankfully, I think we are moving away from the stigma around mental health. That's really been refreshing. Like, I think we are now normalizing more so the need for men and women, I've seen, which is great. So when we're out and about in the community and we're talking about what we're doing, we're not getting, we're more so getting that, sign me up,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, I want to know more, as opposed to that kind of, moving in secrecy and shame. Like, I think we're finally moving beyond that, and I'm just so proud to see even the clients that we work with, a whole age range from their 20s to 60s. We had a ceremony here recently, and one of the women was in her late 60s, right? Which was just so breakthrough to me,
right?
Because that is a generation that probably would have really stigmatized,
right,
and kind of turned away from therapy. We grew up learning you don't tell people your business, right? Like, that's kind of how what we've internalized. I still have that message somewhere lodged in me, but also with that, and knowing that if I don't shake or break those cycles, then I'm going to be passing down some unhealthy things to my kids, right? So I think we're finally ready to break those cycles, and I see the evidence of it. I think the barriers traditionally among communities of color in mental health still are around financial access, insurance, some of these issues, and then we still there are disproportionate numbers in terms of like therapists of color, and them being available to work with our clients, with our community.
Right.
So there's still a need. There's still a need for more therapists of color. Everyone.
If you're looking for a career change.
We can't all be models.
Right, come on over to the wellness area. No, that's real.
Yeah.
Because there's one thing to have an influx of clientele needing services, which is awesome. There's a whole other thing to actually stick to your mission and offer them therapists who look, talk, can relate. Yeah, that's a whole other feat.
Exactly.
Wow.
So luckily we have 8 therapists on our team, all of us.
Oh, wow.
8 people on our team, 7 therapists. All of us are, we've got South Asian, Black, the whole range, right? So I just love that we offer different perspectives and cultural experiences that clients come in and immediately sort of plug into and feel connected to.
Yeah. Well, finally, I would love for you to be able to give some advice to our viewers, our listeners. And so if you had to give some advice to an aspiring entrepreneur, small business owner, someone wanting to launch into starting their own business, what advice would you give them? And specifically, what advice would you give someone who wants to take a plunge into mental health?
That's a great question. I think as far as starting, taking the leap and starting a small business it's really important who you surround yourself with. So I was again intentional about surrounding myself with women, mostly women entrepreneurs. I'm really big on sisterhood, and they have been my family. These are women who I always have seen them say yes, and show up in ways in their lives that gave me permission to do the same, even when it didn't make sense. Entrepreneurship is a lot about making moves that don't make a lot of sense on paper, but you trust and you believe in the bigger vision, and you have to just keep moving towards that, and look at the receipts, because oftentimes the receipts show that you're going to be okay. And that voice of fear it's nerves, and it it's normal. But oftentimes it's fear, and it's not really helpful in the end. It's not going to help propel you. So you just got to stay the course, and then keep people around you that are kind of your yes people that are going to usher you along.
That's so good to be in the mental health space with that as well, because you're doing something that requires a lot of emotion. It requires a lot of your vulnerability. And if you have people around you that they don't necessarily have to agree with every choice that you make, but more so, they don't need to add any pressure to take your mental health down if you're trying to go into this field. That's counterproductive.
Right. And I think that's on that end too, right? Surrounding yourself with healthy people. Right? Because there are those that are going to be the naysayers, and the ones that are going to try to talk you out of things. Right? And so being discerning about who you're going to for advice, for guidance, I think is really important. And then having your own rituals of self-care and things that you can do to kind of celebrate the journey. So I think that was important, because sometimes as a business owner, entrepreneur, you can't see the pot at the end. You can't really always see it, but you know it's going to be there. But so you have to have little things, little rituals and things along the way to kind of celebrate your efforts and make you feel like I'm moving along and things are happening. Right? And that makes it it helps you stay in the game.
Well, I started off in the front and showed this space, but I would love to go on a little walking interview with you and to just see the space. So if we can we go?
Yeah. Yay! Absolutely. Yay! So we are now in what is the waiting area for walk therapy, which is a really cozy, homey vibe. That's kind of what we were going for people to come in and immediately feel like they can just kind of, let go.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to go with colors that were soothing but also fun, that brought kind of light and play into the space. So, and over here, one of the things that was really important was just the art that we chose. And so this was an original piece that the former owner here, Raimundo, that I mentioned, this belonged to him. And so it's another way that we want to just kind of honor him. Yeah, so he is currently living in Zipolita, and he's running a restaurant out there. So that's why he made the move.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this is where we envision having different dinners and gatherings, just conversation around the dinner table, right? I think when I think about this house, I think about pulling in ancestral forms of healing, and food and community and conversation are big parts of our lives as people of color, right? As women of color. So I love that we have a kitchen that we can get in there and cook up things and feed our bellies and our minds.
Yeah, that's important.
This is another one of Raimundo's pieces. He actually took this photo, and it is how I met Raimundo, because he came up to me years ago and he said, "You look like this girl in this photo I just took." This is maybe about 15 years ago. And we've been dear friends ever since. And what's special about Raimundo in this house is he used to prepare meals for me to come here and study for my LCSW exam while he would go watch my kids. And now here I am, I kind of inherited his house, and it is now the center of all the work that I do.
Wow.
Right? So it's a very special,
what is that phrase?
Full circle.
Yeah, full circle.
Yeah, it's very, I love to mention him, because this would not be possible without his belief and heart for impact and for change, because
that's great. I love it. I love the stories behind anything really, but homes, because that's where you build all the stories.
Yes, yeah. Now we put this art chair because that wasn't here, so we kind of added some details here and there. We opened this up and added some.
And tell her again.
Yeah. So
wonderful.
Yeah. Beautiful. That's nice. So this is one of our therapy rooms. There are 3 therapy rooms in the house. And then in the back is where we will have our yoga center and to do all kind of some of our labyrinth and outdoor activities. What's the most special part of this room is this was a picture. This is, I know, very familiar to many of us, the procession, which my Aunt Joanne, who is one of the few ancestors whose spirit is very much alive in this house. So she passed away in October, and I was able to get her this painting.
Wow.
It's very special for it to be hanging in this house. Yeah.
That's so awesome that you have this. Is this from close to the year that it was, or oh wow.
Yeah. So, and then so we'll do some more art in here, but everything we have, I want, it's hopefully going to be, it's a meaningful piece.
Right.
There's
a
tells
story
a story.
Behind it,
Yeah.
So that's important.
Yeah.
Especially for what people will be here for, right? Well, Tamika, thank you so much for letting us come to this beautiful facility and for your time. We truly, truly appreciate it. Can you please tell our viewers how they can get in touch with WOC Therapy Services?
Absolutely. So you can visit us at WOCtherapy.com. There you can book a consultation. We will reach out to you and tell you all about our services.
Awesome. And if you have not already subscribed to our newsletter, you can click the link below in the description and subscribe to our newsletter. And if you want to also find out a little bit more about Impresario or any other services that we offer with NCI, you can go to ncilending.com. Thanks so much.